Well, hello everybody. This is going to be a little different video I'm going to shoot today. I'm out here in Alberta. Massive heat wave. My girls are patiently waiting here quietly for me to do this video. My big screen, I've been away from Alberta for a couple months and there was a Windows 10 update and unfortunately the computer's not working. The update I had 10 days to look at, and of course it was gone for months. So now my computer, I'm froze out of any internet. It just won't take. I've tried all kinds of fixes, it won't work. So I'm going to go to the store. It's going to screw up a few things I want to do here. Especially I had to do today, but that's okay. We'll get it done tonight. But I tagged Sherry Snyder and Susan Aram from the United States, American friends of mine, followers and friends. You guys shared Terry Wade's video. I know Indigenous Truth Reconciliation Commission and absolute genocide of those children is really hitting the USA now. Terry Wade, you guys shared that video. That fellow goes into a bunch of stuff. I want to share this with Americans. Americans, I've been, and you two ladies, and help me share this out. Get it back to that fella who made the video. It's for everybody, Canadians, Americans alike, people with right and left narratives. I don't really care. In the States, we get a Republican narrative, we get a Democrat narrative, and things get hijacked. Truths aren't exactly what people think they are, and I'm here today to go through that and why it shouldn't matter to you Americans. I've been to every major university you have, right or left, in your professors' institutions. I've been through entirely American legal systems, policy, and absolute history in your top universities. I've been doing that for 2 straight years. America's been nothing but just an unbelievable resource for me, as well as United Kingdom. They kind of came on late in that. I wrote an Oxford paper. I was entered in. I was invited. I entered. I did not win. However, it went through many academics and it's hit world governments. That's a fact. You can look. I have Kelly Knightcraft, for those of you who don't know who she is. She was the UNSC P5 rep for United States of America, a friend of mine on both Facebook, and you can find her on Twitter with me. We follow each other, and I have a number of other reps, but just recently China's come on board. Absolutely. I got Zhang Jun, who's been there the entire time of my great works over the last 4 years, and now he's entertaining and engaging me, and I've had all kinds of things from China. But the reality is I have massive amounts of American scholars, best of the best, highly published. This has been going on for a number of years, so I do have credibility in what I'm talking about because I'm always invited back. I'm always in those inner circles. I've been from all the way from Texas to New York and everything in between. I've been out on the world stage, Yale, Oxford, Cambridge. It goes on and on and on. You go on my Twitter, you'll see massive, highest world rated academics following me, even government officials and pretty smart people with massive followings following me. And I don't have a very big following. I used to, but I don't anymore. I'm on a different path. I've been on a different academic path for 2 solid years. So the point of this video, now that I've rambled and I've kind of introduced myself to you ladies, and I want to get into a video you shared, which is a narrative a lot of people are looking at. They're trying to wake up and they get hit with narratives. And my job, as it really is in world history, world law, world policy, and everything political science that I've learned just in the last 4 years, and for all of you who don't know, in America, I ran for the equivalent to governor of a state, and I did that here in Canada in the province of Alberta. I ran a majority government, first poor third-class citizen to do that in Canadian history, really, and I ran a majority cast. That was the big difference. I didn't get elected, but we ran a majority, and it opened up all kinds of things for me on the world stage. And I went through that. I got to that system. I learned Canada's broken system. So I'm going to address, when you guys talk about cabal, you talk about this corporate England and the whole, vast kind of conspiracy over the USA and this elite that's taking over the world. Well, I'm going to make it real simple and real easy to verify for all of you. There are 5 countries in this world, and one of the absolute strongest of those countries is the United States of America. Since 1945, and this should be an historical day for all of you, it is the day the UN was created in San Francisco, USA, by the 5 victorious allies of World War II. They were named the United Nations Security Council. They had a UN charter. USA had just finished bombing Japan by 39 into 40, and we saw 42, well, not in 39, but 39 to 45, we watched them bomb at the end of the war Japan, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. The world was terrified, and USA had full command of the world, along with the Soviet Union, Russia. China had finished its tremendous civil war and had fought back against the Japanese too and run them out of China and began the invasion process. We had Britain and France freed. Now, that's 1945. But there are big issues here. Americans, and this is in your history, I got it out of your history books because we don't get all of this in ours, and a combination of the United Kingdom. So in 1945, Sir Winston Churchill, who was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and one King George VI that nobody ever talks about, he was the World War II King of the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth's father. Nobody can find hardly anything about King George VI, which is interesting because he fought the entirety of World War II. So did Queen Elizabeth II. You don't hear much about that. As well as King George VI was in World War I. Now, what were World War I and World War II? And why did USA not enter the war till the very end? The world argues in academic circles right across the world. You guys can all look this up on Google. You'll find many experts who will argue USA was a Nazi sympathizer. They were letting the Allies get beat, da-da-da-da-da. Well, I can tell you all that's false. United States of America, we the people, with a real we the people constitutionalism and freedom, did not sign on to the world that was called the League of Nations. The world binding laws, world charter, and NWO, so to speak, of the world all years prior to 1939, Declaration of World War II. UK entirely, Great Britain, ran the entire world. They had massive empire, Africa, South America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, many island countries, and it goes on and on. There was not a continent that the British didn't have a major say and absolute governorship over. America being the only one to actually physically beat the crap out of them and get independence, an almost impossible task. Americans did that. To this day, it hasn't been repeated to that scale by any group of people to organize against a massive colonial. And why I say colonial? World War I and World War II were wars that no one ever talks about, were the colonial wars. Absolutely, Allied access to those wars and in their entirety is all to do with absolute countries who perpetuated colonialism. Why this is important, residential schools in Canada, the atrocities to those children, it's absolutely real. There's going to be thousands of bodies discovered. You will find this in every single colonized country throughout the world. Africa is still going through this today. Even regimes come up, even though they're African, and they perpetuate the same heinous crimes that were committed to them by 7 colonials. All absolutely from World War I and II, right out of the books, you guys. Slavery is all based on colonialism. That's where it comes from. Rome introduced that, and all the nation states of the time introduced that into the world, and the colonial system out of imperialism, brand new, started, perpetuated all of it, worst of the worst human rights violations. 7 nations in this world, that's Spain, well, sorry, I'm going to go in order. Portugal, Spain, UK, France, Denmark, Japan, and I'm missing one. It'll come to me regardless later on, but did I get France? And France, I'm sorry, there's 7. France. So, United States pounded out by 5 of those colonials, world colonials, that absolutely traumatized and committed the worst human rights violations, and they were all a part of the League of Nations. Do you know what was not allowed in the League of Nations? Anybody not defined as divine, godlike, in a majesty, white or Spanish, really, that Latino, it was the Latino, Portuguese, and white, that were crown empowered. Now religion prior to that was kind of bringing the world out. Jesus got real popular. The crown powers of this divinity of man had taken over the church and even established their own churches. People talk about cabal and they talk about the Corporation of England and how that's all here today. It's not everybody, but it was there. This absolutely was. You can look at Hudson's Bay and all of it. Yes, this was done through a majesty, a divine right of a first-class citizen, generally white or Latino, and absolutely took over the Catholic Church, created the Church of England and other Christian faiths, absolutely, as well as others. They created their own denomination and all gave a divinity of crown. Even the Pope in history had to give that over, or that divinity of crown was going to execute the Catholic Church. Catholic Church got to keep its money. A lot of religions got to grow. And as long as they were under state, they could go, church and state. That was League of Nations. That ran everybody absolute till 1939. When colonial versus colonial, meaning it was so greedy and greasy, Germany, everyone says left and right. Nobody can say, well, it was socialist, nationalist. Oh no, it was ultra-right, propagandist, and all this. And they go, and there's 2, to this day, academic groups all over the world that fight over that, but not one of them tells you they were an absolute colonial power, no different than the English Empire, which was the biggest empire in the world, no different than France, no different than the Spanish, who committed horrible atrocities against the indigenous of South America entirely. So did the Portuguese. In Africa as well too, in Asia and China. China was not a colonial. United States of America, not really a colonial at all. They had fought 5 colonials. They took an aftermath of colonialism. Africa, never a colonial. They took the brunt of all 7 colonials. They're in the worst position, besides maybe North American indigenous and absolutely South American indigenous, who were nearly wiped out, and a whole bunch of those empires were wiped out by disease and absolute human rights atrocity. That's reality. Slavery and human rights violations. League of Nations up to 1939. The world law, the NWO of that time, that America would not sign on to. They went with America first and resoundingly voted in your history in the early 30s. All Americans, Democrat, Republican alike, in a resounding majority, said no to League of Nations, said absolutely yes to America first. They won't tolerate that. And they never have. In America's history, they've actually cleaned up all their stuff. When people start talking about the slavery and the abuse in America, southern states, it's actually all colonial powers from the Spanish. There was the Spanish-American flu, the War. There was the American-Mexican War. To this day, those states still have a lot of the names, everything else. I know your entire history. I know every single state you have. You even have states who were French colonials, changed over and went part of the Union. There were only really 13 states of the original Union. You're 50 now. You beat the hell out of 5 colonials, an impossible feat in this world. No one's ever repeated that. Nobody. Americans are the only one to be absolutely colonized, to absolutely fight back and break that. It's never been repeated in this world. 5 colonials destroyed all before World War II. America suffered a lot of problems from that. Slavery, all kinds of things tied directly to colonialism. You'll find the indigenous atrocities that they commit on themselves and their families and the problems they're having in this country today are all absolutely, even today, absolute colonial abuses of the church and government state. Canada never moved on. They never moved on. World War II came and went. America and Soviet Union and China, UK, France made an agreement in 1941 to abolish all colonialism. There is no more corporate United Kingdom. They have a UNSC power, but they are forbidden to become an ally and to be a UNSC P5 in 1945. King George had to end all crown entitlements worldwide. It's why India's independent and many, many other countries. Now, he had a vast empire to do. We have the letter. I can promise you all this. I have Sir Winston Churchill's letter begging the United States in 1941 to come save them, and USA bartering back and forth for the new United Nations. And he had to agree to a whole bunch of terms and conditions, of which meant ending colonialism, ending the corporate England out in the world. And they had to, and they did. King George agreed, and Winston Churchill agreed. They formulated, and that's why USA took so long to get into the war. After Sir Winston Churchill and King George VI agreed, USA agreed to enter the war and fight and liberate UK. Not only UK, France too. Beaches of Normandy, people. Canadians know this. We stormed the beaches of Normandy, France. Germany had them occupied. They had UK beat to hell. Germany steamrolled them. For years, they were beaten. America, Russia took forever to get involved. Why? They wanted a deal. They wanted a new world. They wanted to be free of all colonialism. They wanted the law of sovereignty. There would be no more NWO. That was America that did that. That was Russia that did that. Russia's never gone outside of its borders. To this day, it fights inside its region, a region that fell apart in '89. And during that time, Ukraine and a bunch of the regions that are in trouble right now, and there's all kinds of strife and struggle. '89, communist USSR fell apart. Ukraine did a declaration of independence. They didn't do a referendum voted by the people. A party was elected and they quickly named themselves independent. An American president gave them that power. Russia was not destroyed, but they had fallen apart. They weren't on the world stage. Then the Russian Federation gets back together, and now to this day they fight. It's illegal to do a unilateral declaration of independence. It's right in the UN Charter of 1945. When we hear about Russia and USA and China and all the propaganda of P5s, UK, France, that's them battling each other. Nobody in the world outside of that P5 has any authority according to the binding world laws of the UN. And a lot of times countries like Canada and other countries talk about international law as though it's the League of Nations. What Canada is constitutionally, we've never moved on. 1945 came. King George made it to Canada in 1952. He had freed India and many other, Russia, Middle East countries, all kinds of British empires. It was Canada's turn. He removed all of UK from Canada entirely, Governor General and all Lieutenant Governors. Anyone can look this up. Up until that year, 1952, every Governor General of Canada and every Lieutenant Governor who sends all acts and bills, which means allows laws to be made, was done by UK up until 1952. And they also decide your court and are in full charge over your courts. This is nothing like America. We're nothing like America. We're very much like Nazi Germany, okay? Because we're colonial. We are a colonial built system from the League of Nations the USA, Russia, China, France, and UK abolished and made illegal worldwide. But Canada never did that. Neither did many African nations who didn't go through the process. Some did in the 60s. You see successes, and then you see others that are not, or you see others that got there but they didn't get rid of all of it, like Canada. Although UK pulled out, King George VI died just 2 months after pulling UK out. We never got any constitutional amendments. We remained just like Nazi Germany, a colonial. Our entire constitution remains trapped in the League of Nations era. Absolutely racist, homicidal, genocidal. We put divinity into people. We give a crown power. We say there's no God before the majesty of our country, which is no longer Queen Elizabeth. They name her, but then they go on to tell you that that's actually Prime Minister, and that through Governor General and Lieutenant Governor of the Queen's powers, but they're sworn to Prime Minister, and Prime Minister picks them and they have to swear to Prime Minister. So the Queen Elizabeth II has been forbidden as of her father. He ended all that worldwide, but in Canada officially all of it. Queen Elizabeth has never ever passed a law in Canada or ever tried to ever overstep anything in her entire reign. She gives absolute presentations. You can all Google it. 1956, she addresses the entire UN General Assembly, which has no right to ratify international law unless the binding 5 allies say they do. And for Americans to understand, you own absolutely the largest, by a large margin, share of all the gold in the world. You own most of the UN, absolutely. It's based in New York. You also own absolutely most of all foreign debt in this world, American citizens. We the people. You're the wealthiest people in the world by far. Anyone can Google this, it's fact. There's no missing gold. The gold is absolutely in the United States. It's all absolutely in many, many vaults. Thousands and thousands of tons of gold. Gold that goes on for miles, bars of gold. Foreign nations, some of them own that, but USA will never let them transport it out of the country. They're allowed to invest and own in that gold, but they can never take it out of USA. I'm not knocking USA here. I'm just filling in blanks here, everybody. That what's happened in Canada with Indigenous is not some corporate UK. UK has not been that evil monster, absolutely, since 1945. Neither's France. They're not allowed to be. It would be World War III if they tried it. They can't, not officially anyway. Sure, they make treaties and make deals, but it's nothing. Every atrocity you see today, ladies and gentlemen, is by the individual UN state. USA, Russia, China, UK, France created the law of sovereignty in 1945. NWO is absolutely illegal. So if they won't allow NWO and they absolutely forbid it, which they do, anyone can watch any UNSC rollout, and all of them are absolutely dead against any kind of NWO whatsoever. But all the UN General Assembly wants that. They want all kinds of things. G40 cities, goes on and on. You see them all. Well, I can tell you my country, Canada, is leading NWO. Even my home city, Edmonton, Alberta, Mayor Iverson, and this is a Canadian northern city of 1 million people, leads G40 cities. They're founding member, and they're absolutely full-heartedly in NWO. So is Toronto, Montreal. There's a whole bunch of cities, and you'll find cities all around crown colonials, pure dictatorships, and absolute dictatorships. Yeah, full autocrats all around the world in the General Assembly. 70%, a lot of third world countries, they all want that. They don't want to follow the Allies of World War II. Many of them would have been or have been assimilated through colonialism or were colonies themselves, and that's why they are the way they are today. They haven't got rid of that. They haven't addressed it. Canada's one of them, New Zealand, Australia, massive African countries inside the African continent. You can go to South America, tons of them there, third world countries, goes on and on and on. on all absolute colonialism, ruled illegal in this world. It's been going on for years, everybody. Very simple reasoning here. No real conspiracy, no nothing. These countries give foreign influence, big major corporations, whatever they want, because there's no we the people. It's a divine right of the ruler or a divine right of the politician. The people don't exist in constitutionalism. They're nothing like Russia with a constitution that backs up the people. Sure, they have strong executive power. They have regionalism, regional constitutions. USA, the same way, absolutely one of the strongest constitutions in the world. Plus, they have 50 state constitutions, like Russia has 85 regional constitutions. You'll see USA has 50 state constitutions, many of which are older than the United States Constitution itself. You'll find that people have tremendous power in the United States. Checks and balances. This is seen in Russia and the regions too. Even though the federal system is a one-party system and very authoritarian, you could say. But so is Canada, even worse than Russia. And there are zero regional constitutions inside Canada. None whatsoever. You elect an absolute king in every province who can mandate any law they want through their elected representatives who took power, and there's nothing anyone can do about it for 4 years. They have full control of the courts, as does the federal government has full control, what's called King's Court, over the courts through that Governor General, Lieutenant Governor power. There is no democracy in Canada. We vote, but all we're voting for is an autocratic power that rules over you and does whatever they want, pass any law, and there is zero rules of governance, how to govern entirely for the people or for the First Nations people. Not even listed anywhere in the Constitution. People say, well, you guys got a charter. USA talks about our wonderful charter. The problem is, Americans, you have a Bill of Rights that's absolutely empowered and enshrined in your Constitution for you, the people. And you back it up in civil rights for all your states. But you know what? We have a federal charter that is decided, as all constitutional divine monarchies have for 900 years. It's why USA threw it out of its country on its ass. Because the politician, the divine Lord King, decides that charter when elected, what parts of it you get, how it's interpreted, and if you can have any of it. And even though there's precedent law, the common law, Americans have that, we don't have that in Canada. Because while you have a Supreme Court that has to rule on preceding precedent, our Governor General federally for our Supreme Court, and our Lieutenant Governors in every province for what's called our Superior Court, which is a Supreme Court of State in the United States, the Governor General or Lieutenant Governors can override any judge. They absolutely appoint all the judges on advice of the Prime Minister. Imagine for a second, Americans, that your President-elect got to decide the entire Senate of every state, upper house. Not only appoint them, but each senator was appointed for life, and they had to swear an oath of allegiance. I will defend the president no matter what for the rest of my life. To hell with we the people. There goes your preamble. We don't have the same preamble as you. We give away our sovereignty in our preamble. We don't have supremacy of God. We say the supremacy is in the divine right of that elected politician, who is Queen Elizabeth II, Prime Minister of Canada. And all the crown attachments, Governor General, Lieutenant Governors of every province and territory. This has happened all over the world since World War II. Nobody's ever addressed it. UK is not that animal anymore. But the problem is what they created in the League of Nations. France is not that animal anymore, but what they created in the League of Nations. Italy, Rome is not that animal anymore, but what they created in the League of Nations. Portugal is not that animal anymore, but what they created in the League of Nations. And we go on and on and on through all the colonials. What they created stays with all the colonized states. If the majesty or the powers of those governments didn't go in and amend the constitutions. If Russia and USA, which went around the world, through Africa all the way through the 60s, They called it a Cold War. It was a war over how many constitutions USA could make and how many constitutions Russia could make, removing colonial embedded, basically that nutcase Nazism of the power of an elite human being over many others. They were removing that worldwide, both countries. China never embraced it either. They all agreed to it. That's called the Allies of World War II. It's what all Americans, Canadians, and everyone registered as an ally fought for in World War II. And that is backed up in absolute history worldwide. I wrote a tremendous paper about all this for everybody. All the things we hold on to, we make narratives against the Queen, this corporate America, all of these, it's the cabal of this, it's that, the left has narratives, Black Lives Matter has narratives, unions have narratives. The reality is, all of this comes from colonialism. That is not the UK, it's not any of the allies anymore. It's absolutely countries like Canada who are perpetuating, Australia, New Zealand, many in Africa, all over the world, South America. Russia, USA fight back and forth because they want to win their version of a cleanup for that country. They want to be able to decide the value in supply chains and continue to be wealthy. China does the same thing. UK and France do the same thing. That's the limits of their power. That's it. They bind international law, and if you read all their laws that they have bound, or at least presented in a resolution and allowed all of the General Assembly to vote for without shooting it down, you'll find that the laws passed are excellent. The stuff you all hate comes from countries like Canada and other rogue UN General Assembly states who are basically operating as Axis powers because their constitutions are just like colonial Germany or the former colonial England or the former colonial France or former colonial Denmark or former colonial Spain or former colonial Portugal. This is reality. It's not really left or right. Ronald Reagan talked about this. It's up or down. Many presidents have. JFK told you. Richard Nixon told you. It's not America, not if people follow their constitution. I mean, people try to break it all the time, Republicans and Democrats alike. But the checks and balances of the Constitution of we the people, all the way, both state and nationally, have kept America safe from the influences of the dark world. They try all the time, left and right, they try. They come up with this left or right narrative, but reality is it's about up and down. Up here, autocracy, and all the people down here as slaves, or it's down here and more of a libertarian, and that's the people over the few government, meaning the pyramid's been flipped upside down. America struggles with this. It's on a teeter-totter. But absolutely Canada is a pyramid. It always has been. People don't want to see it. Americans don't even see it. Do you know when I polled real Russians and real Americans and real Canadians, more than 500 poll, okay? Real poll. Real Americans, real Russians, real Canadians, as percentage of country, meeting in the ratio of 325 million Americans, 162 million Russians, and 40 million Canadians. When I did that ratio, all Americans said Russia was the most autocratic. Do you know what all the Russians said? USA is the most autocratic. Canadians were split 1/3. 1/3 thought USA was, 1/3 thought Russia was, 1/3 thought Canada was. The answer is, everybody, it's Canada. Canada's the most autocratic. You can't even compare to Russia. We don't even have regional constitutions. We have divinity of the politician, meaning no supremacy of God, no nothing. We don't have regional constitutions. We have zero civil rights. People talk about racist Canada. Racist Canada. We're founded on colonialism. We've had the same constitution since 1867. They never removed anything, even in 1982. They pull out a fancy charter. Hello, newsflash, Americans, Canadians, anyone in the world right now. Monarchies have had, since Magna Carta, 900 years ago, have had charter after charter after charter. Robin Hood, first story, Back in 1179, what did the king do with the charter? Oh, I'll sign it. All the peasants fight for me. Lords, barons, don't worry. I promise you all this freedom, and people will work and have the money, and I will be a good king. Here's your rights and freedoms, just like the Charter of 1982. But guess what happens, everybody? War's over, king returns home with his military, and all the peasants are happy, and they go, okay, we're going to enact all these rights, and the king sweeps through with the military, cuts everybody down, gets your slave ass working, that's my land, you're out, you're back in just like slave time, working for the master on the plantation. If you don't believe me, African American citizens and Black Lives Matter, look at Ireland, they'll tell you. Ireland's on the UNSC. They back up everything I say. They just gave a tremendous presentation on children's genocide, backing up my ICC, and even gave me another tool in the toolbox. Many Irish have been very helpful with me on the legal path to independence, as well as you look at Spain right now, Caledonia. I have a massive academic and politician with a huge following me. We're in talks again. And it's all on, just like what Ukraine did, on the idea that you can make a unilateral declaration, expect to be successful. Well, they never are. Ukraine's in all kinds of trouble. Look at the 5 regions, they're all messed up. You need to have a referendum of majority, not a government party stating because they got elected. That's not a majority. That's world binding law, and that's why Ukraine and that whole Russian Crimea area is a mess. And I don't even know if Russia's really to be at fault anymore as they go through international binding law by the 5 and voted by the world in majority, bind it into international law. We have to start following them, ladies and gentlemen. Canada doesn't follow any. 75% of the time, we're against the Allies, we're Axis power, and we vote or present things that are absolutely ridiculous or illegal on the world stage by our politicians. The people don't even have a say. We elect them, they don't tell us about it, they lie off their faces off, and then they just do it. It's nobody's fault but the radical autocrats we've elected. A League of Nations governing system that was outlawed in 1945. Canada doesn't want to get rid of it. There are nations all over the world who don't want to get rid of it. Even ones who got independence, do you know they kept all the colonial embedments that were ruled illegal? You won't find them in the United States. You won't find them in Russia. You won't even find them in communist China. Even though China's got its problems, communism's nothing I like. But the atrocities aren't there, everybody. People keep saying all these atrocities. The UNSC met all the allies plus the 13. Do you know that all those Democrat states, when China spoke up against Canada, nobody talked about Uyghur Muslims or Uyghur children? In fact, USA, Americans, you revoked your accusation. Five Eyes, Canada put one, passed its parliament, hasn't revoked it. UK already revoked theirs, no evidence. So they lied, which is okay. They're a P5, they're allowed to do that. They can mess around with each other. But when a UN state does it, according to law, against a P5, you have no one to go to, and Canada did that. And no one can back us up now. Now we're screwed. Now we've been caught in children's genocide, absolutely by our government, with again the same impediments in our Constitution embedded that state supremacy of the politician, absolute. They run all courts, they pass all laws, they crafted all the laws that absolutely do what Nazi Germany did to the Jews. They passed and put on the indigenous Canadians. They didn't just do it all through the same time period as Nazi Germany, even before Nazi Germany. They continued well after Nazi Germany, even when they went through international tribunal and court through genocide. Canada kept doing genocide. Nothing was said. There are many countries, colonized countries, colonials, that continue this. It's not left, it's not right. It's not some white power nationalism. It's not some left crazy socialist. It is 100% colonialism, ruled illegal in 1945. In fact, there's been many resolutions since then giving even more and more penalties up towards death for people who perpetuate this stuff. Canada's in a lot of trouble. This is my video. I hope it reaches Americans. I hope it helps you understand where all your problems are coming from. It's got nothing to do with your fellow allies. It's colonial countries. You'll find they're all exactly the same, from Africa to Canada. And they all do the same horrendous, sick Nazi-style crimes. Raping 3 to 8-year-old children in the anus, man or woman, tearing little girls apart in the vagina. It's just done a few years back in Africa. Well, it's just been done a few years back in Canada too, by rich, wealthy politicians, elite military RCMP, just like those African nations. Done by church, because it was done to them. Where did church come from? A mandate from colonialism, crown power. It's been around forever. Again, USA, Russia, China abolished it. UK, France agreed. That's how they got UNSC power, and they've maintained that since 1945, or they lose their UNSC status. So they don't perpetuate any of this. If they got caught, it's a declaration of World War III. We have an absolute law of sovereignty, everybody. Canada's the bad guy. So are many other colonial countries. You can look, there's still a crap ton of them out there. Most of the world is still in that way. Russia and USA were changing all this. They stopped. They stopped. The last one that was done was in 2005. That's the last one they did. And it was a rarity because they're fighting so much with each other now. They forgot about their sacred responsibility, their promise to the world for all these tremendous powers. Here's another one for you guys. You're all worried about all these rights you've lost all over the place. Why are those 5 countries the only ones allowed superpowered enriched nuclear reactors and advanced nuclear weapons? They're the only ones. Anybody else, you will face embargoes, sanctions, military intervention, and execution. They all do it. You can look it up. France, I don't know if Americans know this, France killed 22 African presidents. And there's no problem for that. No problem at all. That's the power of the UNSCP 5. Each of the 5 countries, Donald Trump just executed Soleimani. Africa executes people all the time, so does China. They criticize each other in Western narratives or Eastern narratives, and the reality is this is what the world voted for in 1945. It's absolutely the UN Charter of 1945. Those 5 countries individually or all together, yeah, they bind laws, but they can also do embargoes, sanctions, military intervention, and execution. And the only way to stop it is to dissolve the UN through an act of World War III, meaning the P5 themselves terminate the UN. And they're never going to do that. Never in a million years. Just like when China spoke up about Canada on the 28th in Child's Genocide Annual UNSC Convention, in front of the world, all the baddest bad countries, serious genocidal countries today, doing that sick, crazy Nazi type stuff, listed, and so is Canada. China was not listed, and it was an open debate. UK and USA didn't debate China at all, neither did Russia, neither did France, neither did any of the other 13. They said no. It's all Canada. Nobody disputed it. Canada's toast. The politicians of Canada are going to face the same justice as are all those African crazy nutcases who were put to death and got horrendous treatment in prison for the rest of their lives. That's what's going to happen here. We have to see this through. That's the world, how it works. There is no queen that's doing this. There is no cabal, corporate thing going on here. Sure, foreign intervention happens because your corrupt politicians are getting paid to do it. Again, a colonialist problem. A problem with autocracies, 100% autocracies, dictators, and radicals, or military-run worlds. That's reality. That's what you get. China isn't killing children, I'll tell you that right now. These are just stories you get fed, loads of shit. Sure, America wants to push their narratives too, but when it comes time to back it up with facts. Nobody's got any. None. But we do have facts about Canada. We know this is true. Just like those African regimes, we saw all the facts. They're there, they're recorded. People got prosecuted, people got put to death. And what's happened to Indigenous children is not some England thing. It was in the League of Nations, because that was how the world worked. If you weren't you weren't right, and that was the League of Nations. Colored people did not exist as citizens at all. And just before everybody starts targeting white people, it was first, second, third class citizen. Third class citizen went down, man. They were serfs on the plantation. No different than the slaves from the time in Africa and into America's slavery. No different all over the place. Committed by colonials with the supremacy of the politician, supremacy of the monarch. This has to be ended today. Canada has to change. We have to embrace constitutionalism. We the people, supremacy of God, meaning there is no supremacy in any man or woman. No man or woman's higher than anybody else. Many democratic nations run very successfully on this. USA is one of them. The most powerful nation on that. That's my video today, everybody. There's going to be another one tonight. I'm burning all my sacraments. You're going to see that in the fire pit. Still light out. And my letter's going to have to wait till tomorrow because this sucker's down. So I'm sorry. It's going to have to wait. It should have been today. I didn't plan for this. And technology, right? I'm gone too long. So watch for tomorrow. Share this out. Americans, get on it. This is how it works. There's no corporate conspiracy. The only conspiracy is the fact that real history, easy to prove, is it's colonialism. It's NWO shit. Comes from Axis power. What is Axis power? Absolutely all colonials of this earth. Ruled illegal by the Allies. Ended entirely. But colonized countries continue it. Even if they got independence, they just took that colonial embedded constitutionalism and kept it alive and perpetuated to this day. Canada is an Axis power now. How do you go from Allied to Axis? Well, we didn't get our constitutional amendment in 1952. King George died. The politicians stole it. Now they are the Nazis. Every party. So we don't have liberal, conservative. They do. They pull that bullshit. But both of them, all of them, even the NDP, Bloc, Green, just like USA, all these little spin-off ideas and parties, we have those parties. And they all just want to crown power, divinity of the politician, and then they perpetuate NWO, which is filling their back pockets at the expense of all the people. Because Indigenous and all Canadians don't exist in the Constitution. This isn't the same in the United States of America and many other successful nations in the world. We're nothing like them. We were colonized. We're messed up real bad. There's still a whole bunch of them. A whole bunch of them out there that got to be fixed. USA and America don't do that anymore. They quit doing their job. A job they took, they get paid for. They've let the UN fall apart. They've let NWO rise up. What is NWO? Colonial Axis power. Hello, Nazism, ladies and gentlemen. Not by Russia, not by China, not by USA, not UK, not France. It's a whole bunch of other rogue UN states. Canada's one of them. Wake up. All real history. Best experts in the world can't dispute any of this. Thank you. Bye now.